When I was struggling in New York City back in 1966, I had a lonely time there. I didn't know anyone in New York, and I didn't have any money. I arrived with $12 on a Greyhound bus. My wife and my daughter were still in West Virginia. I didn't want to bring them here. First, I couldn't afford to have them here, and secondly, what if I failed? Then I had every intention of going back and living my life in the small town of Parkersburg, where I grew up and had a wonderful childhood. Wonderful in the sense that back then we were able to actually be children. You go out in the morning and you play when you were young. And I really appreciated the opportunity to grow up in a small community and with close friends. But when I came to New York, I had no friends. I lived in a very tiny apartment, a tiny little kitchenette, and in the bathtub was a half a bathtub with a shower curtain. So I'd stand in this little bathtub and subs down and then rinse off. And that's also where I had to make food. It's very precarious being an independent person. I thought to myself, well then, shouldn't I do something that would sustain me so I could use my writing and my other interest as kind of like a hobby? And I decided to open a little tiny health food store. And up on 108th and Broadway, there was a small Singer store, a sewing machine company, and it had gone out of business. It was, I'm guessing, around 300 square feet. It was very small. There was a juice machine, so I could make people fresh juices. Had a little counter that seated about 6 people, and one little refrigerator, because there was almost no organic produce available at that time. And the amount of vitamins I had today would be laughable. I had one shelf with vitamins. The night before, before I went to bed, I would make some soups, and I would make some oatmeal and some breakfast things and some lunch things. And then I would take them all to the corner, and one bus driver would allow me on the bus from 89th Street to go up to 108th Street. The others wouldn't. Oh, you can't bring all this stuff on here. And one guy was very nice. And I would carry all these soups and everything across the street, opened up. In the morning, I would have something to serve them for breakfast, like fresh juices and oatmeal. For lunch, I would serve some salads. And I was open 6 days a week. And at the end of the month, I made just enough to pay my rent, which was $57 a month, and my store rent. I had nothing left over. It was 2 years before I could hire one employee to help me. And then in the next block, there was a empty space, and I rented it, and I opened up the first gourmet vegetarian restaurant in the United States in its history. It was called The Fertile Earth. And between Creative Health Foods, which is still there to this day, tiny little store, and I would go from the health food store over to the restaurant. The restaurant opened at 4 in the afternoon. Mind you, this was 1967, 68, 69, 70. 71, I bought a farm upstate. I could only afford a small farm. It was an old farm from the late 1600s. Norwegian family had been there all that time, and the last descendant, who was in her 80s, lived there. And I created a whole organic farm there, and I started the first food co-op, High Falls Food Co-op. It was good, it was fun. I made over 100 items per week, and then I would make fresh French brick oven breads, and I'd make tofu and tempehs. It was just a wonderful time. So the restaurant would get Fertile Farm food fresh, and we were packed. And it was also known as the hangout for a lot of social activists. The Berrigan brothers, a lot of people from different political movements would come in there. It was a meeting place because they liked the idea they could be eating some organic, fresh, healthy food. And at the same time, we got a lot of people from Columbia University. So I just made it a policy that any student or artist who was having a financially challenging time could have a whole gourmet organic meal for $2.50. So that brought in a whole lot of people. Between the health food store and the restaurant and the farm, I was able to set some money aside. And that money I set aside, I then took over the second floor at 81st Street and Broadway, and I put up there a loft for artists. I went down to the Lower East Side to 8th Street, St. Mark's Place, and I saw some extremely talented artists, and I interviewed as many as I could over a period of 6 months. And then those that I felt were nice people and very talented, I let them come up and no rent. They could eat at the restaurant for free. They could go up to the farm on the weekends and just be close to nature. So they really had it nice. And I gave them 1-year scholarships, meaning everything, their food, lodging, everything was taken care of for a year. And I hired Fortune Society people. I invented the first health food push carts. Here comes the sun. And these carts, they would open up, and they had bags of nuts and seeds and sandwiches. They had 4 different types of juices, and that really did well. And then my books started to hit, and I had the most successful health book in American history, The Complete Handbook of Nutrition. And hardback, I know it sold over 1 million copies because the bookkeeper said that we've shipped out over 1 million hardback books. So I was doing very well. I was approached by my writer friends, and they said, Gary, you know, you're living here in this tiny little 1-room apartment, and you've got all these best-selling books, like 7 best-selling books, and you're on television everywhere, on Johnny Carson and Mike Douglas and everywhere. Every week I was somewhere. And you own this successful restaurant and health food store, and you got this beautiful farm. When are you going to move out of here? When are you going to move into one of the nice buildings? I said, why should I? I'm only able to do my humanitarian projects to help all these people by having a stable income. I've used my royalties, I've used my lecture fees to support other people, to help them, to open doors for them. I've taken in a lot of homeless people. I've run animal sanctuaries that's allowed over 3,000 animals, from buffalo to giraffe, from camels to zebras, from monkeys of all types, capuchins and ringtails and rough lemurs, to find homes, loving homes for life. And that's very expensive. The vet bills, the food for that almost 50 years of animal husbandry is probably $100,000 a year. Every single person that I've seen nutritionally, I've never charged a penny. Now, I don't know how many that is. I'm going to guesstimate around 60,000, more or less. Rich or poor, it doesn't matter. And I realized that charging people who cannot afford it deprives them of the tools they may be able to benefit from that could change their lives for the better. I've given over 5,000 free lectures. I've counseled tens of thousands of people, including billionaires, members of the royal family, a lot of people. I've done my radio show. I gave my salary to BAI, PFW, for 45 years, collectively around $3 to $4 million. I've raised them over $50 million.
I don't know the numbers, but I can tell you that Gary raised millions and millions of dollars for WBAI. And without Gary, there would not be a WBAI. You know, so.
I've never charged PBS for showing any of my programs. I've had over 27 different specials on different PBS stations, including the most successful up to that point in their career, How to Live Forever, and then another blockbuster, Get Healthy Now, then a final blockbuster for women only. About 40 years ago, I began to develop unique types of supplements like green stuff and red stuff and Supremacy, and those became finest products of their type ever made. I don't advertise them, I don't promote them. It's just on my radio show. Occasionally I'll mention them. It's just word of mouth. So that's given me an income. And again, I in my health food store, which is the most successful per square foot that I'm aware of in America, I give people big discounts on the 1st and 15th, but every single day we set food aside at 9 o'clock at night so anyone who's hungry can come in and get a free meal, and they're never questioned. If it's wild salmon, they get the wild salmon, whatever it is. And we give a lot of food away every day that we don't have to give away, we choose to. And plus I pay for the food for my employees. And at one time I had over 158 employees. I had a booming business on 92nd and 2nd, where upstairs, where we had the anti-aging center, the the Tri-State Healing Center on 72nd and Broadway, our Fulfillment Center where we did our film production down on Franklin Street in the Village, and then my office at 83rd and Broadway, 2307 Broadway. Wonderful old building. And all these were packed with people doing good work, all work that helped on social issues, environmental reporting, and I couldn't do any of that because so much of what I did for free. In fact, for the Tri-State Healing Center, I paid for the treatment for 1,200 people with full-blown AIDS, and that was very expensive, well over $1 million. Because even though they didn't pay anything, I had to pay the medical doctor, the nurses for all the supplements, vitamin C drips, glutathione, etc. The same way with the people who would come to the lectures on the east side. I must have done 100 lectures over there. You know, that was a public service. All the health support groups. And for 15 years, I was doing 1 and sometimes 2 health support groups per night, 5 nights a week. So I could only help others by having an income that would allow me to support those efforts. Because in life, nothing's really free. Someone has to pay for something. And when I help my friends, when I help those in need, if I didn't have any resources, if I didn't go back to that health food store that I started and all those hours I put in every day, but I've been fortunate and blessed in that the businesses I have created have given enough income that I've been able to share probably, I'm guessing, 94% of everything I've earned. I've shared with other people, helped with causes. All my documentaries, I don't go out and seek money from people. I pay for them myself. Try making a high-quality documentary, a multi-award-winning documentary like Poverty, Inc., and see what it costs. But I'm happy to do those and give them free. Go up to YouTube, you'll see how many things are up there for free. In a society that overvalues how much money you make and how much you're able to spend on yourself and big apartments and yachts and mansions, and I believe that a different philosophy is in order and long overdue. Compassionate capitalism, where you're able to help social causes, you're able to help the commons, you're able to help people who have less to have more, because you're grateful for what you have. It's just a part of my life people have not understood because I haven't shared it, but now I am sharing it. And it's to share this so that those of you who know that there are people who don't understand what true philanthropic means are. And I'm not talking about the multi-millionaires who have to give away a certain amount of money to charities. Whether those charities pass it on and make it a better world or not is another story. I believe in helping people one-on-one. I want to look in the faces of the people I'm helping and hear their story. And I couldn't do that if I didn't have the knowledge of how to create and run a successful business. I'm just one of millions of small business people in America, and I have such a love for them because I know how much time and energy and sacrifice they have to put in to make their business successful. And they do it, and then the next generation comes and can carry it forward, but they didn't have all the risks, but they have all the rewards. And then their children frequently don't want to be a part of the business and forget all that went into making that happen to begin with. That's why we see so many of the people today not wanting to run the small family businesses. So that's a little bit about myself. Thank you for watching.